There's an article here recently released by PC Games. Destiny 2 isn't the problem. Its players are. Y'all ready for this? What a bold title. All right, let's read this article. Hold on. Destiny 2 has had its ups and downs, but Bungie's space shooter still receives an undue amount of hate from portions of its mammoth player base. From Cherry right here. Why do some Destiny 2 fans give Bungie so much bother? It's a question I've been pondering throughout my extensive time with the game because, as far as I can tell, these are people who remain deeply invested. It's almost like we should exercise some agency over our decisions and step away when something is no longer doing it for us. But, snarkiness aside, we should really delve a little deeper into why this FPS game is proving increasingly polarizing. There's been talk of Destiny 2 becoming a microtransaction hell. Oh, wow. Okay. It's true that since the launch of the original Destiny in 2014, the game's format has shifted to allow for the scale of its offerings both on a technical level and in terms of its monetization. The biggest live service games nowadays are free to play, with additional microtransactions, expansions, and DLC, allowing for their long-term operation. Destiny 2's free-to-play content includes a generous selection of activities. You can play as all three classes, and there's a helpful overhauled version of the new light quest for those fresh to the game, which teaches you how to use those classes. The new Guardian rank system is free to everyone, as is the built-in Vanguard Strike playlist. This means that even though most strikes are hidden behind paid expansions in the raw map, you can still get a taste of them when they roll around into the playlist. Almost all the PvP modes, Crucible is free to everyone, as is the Hybrid Gambit mode. I do want to just point out something. The last thing we wanted in this game was for Crucible to be free. You know, there is a thing called a paywall. One of the best anti-cheats Bungie ever added to Trials of Osiris was a paywall. And we saw how free-to-play Trials of Osiris went. Cheaters would literally just load into another account every single time. Now, the same goes for seasonal events, including Guardian Games, Festival of Lost, Solstice of Heroes, and The Dawning. The Prophecy Dungeon is free, as are the Vault of Glass and Kingfall raids. Patrol, public events, and Lost Sectors, same again. 2021 Desert Tourney, a new event added to the game to celebrate 30 years of Bungie, is now also free. Finally, free players can also access the first campaign mission in full for the Witch Queen and Lightfall campaigns. That's a hell of a lot of a game for the low price of nothing, including a mix of all game modes, the most recent campaign missions, and in-game content. It's nothing to sniff at, and it's not as though Bungie has locked all of the best bits of Destiny 2 behind paywalls. Okay, so I need to just stop right here. We're going to continue reading. I don't think anyone in the Destiny community is complaining about paywalls. I think what we're complaining about is that it's the double dipping of your player base that is paying. That's the problem. I completely understand why giving a player that's just wanting to try the game out, whether it's free to play or whether it's free trial, whatever. I completely understand that. Like, you got to give people a foot in the door, show them what the game is, let them mess around and play with it, and maybe give them a couple of things to, you know. I said in the past, I even gave an idea that some people thought was crazy, but I was like, dude, imagine if you allowed for certain exotics that were locked behind the paid portion of the game to drop for said free-to-play player. They play with it for a second, and then after an hour of that free trial, the gun locks. So I get this, but what I don't like is the double and triple dipping into your existing player base. I could care less about the free-to-play player. I care about the premium players, the people that are actually paying to buy the game, play the game for long term, and sustaining them. Now, if we look at the new premium currency, silver, I still struggle to see an issue. You can spend this to unlock the season pass or buy cosmetics and never restored. It's important to note that buying the deluxe or ultimate editions of each year's expansion also gets you the season pass. Another new addition is the dungeon key, which lets you try out some of the latest content, even if it's only available to ultimate edition owners. What? Another new addition is the dungeon key, which lets you try out some of the latest content, even if it's only available to ultimate edition owners. What's completely sold separately. Like, if you buy a season, you're not actually getting everything within that season separately. You have to buy the dungeon separately. All right, nobody go flame this person. I'm genuinely just trying to grasp. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Am I misunderstanding something? So in the short, I can't see how the problem lies within Bungie's monetization methods. It might cause frustration in longtime fans who simply must obtain every ornament for every weapon or the latest emotes and shaders, but I personally just wait until they roll around in the Bright Dust store. Once that's happened, I can buy them using in-game currency earned by completing activities. I think the issue is that in a game like Destiny, and drip game for some is the end game. None of the ornaments are really, especially like these events. We have Solstice coming out. Other than like the one ornament that's going to be obtainable through the actual event itself, everything is purchasable through Eververse. And the issue with it is that the events don't feel like events. They just feel like more opportunities for us to buy things. Maybe then the issue lies in Bungie's previous decision to sunset paid for content, therefore making it unplayable. Yes, this was a huge source of frustration for many, including myself. It didn't and still doesn't seem fair that content I've paid for is no longer accessible. But Bungie has also reversed that decision and vowed to never sunset anything again, going so far as to bring old content out of the vaults and include raids from the original Destiny, such as Vault of Glass and King's Fall, now featuring improved mechanics and balancing all for free. Well, you still have seasonal content that rolls out. You know, Bungie's whole stance on sunsetting, it's such a strange situation because sunsetting served two purposes. Number one, cycling things out of the game, therefore removing things that would become bloated over time. And number two, sunsetting weapons, most notably pinnacle weapons. Pinnacle weapons were a problem. I loved them. You loved them, but they were a problem. They were as powerful as exotics, but they were legendaries. And Bungie didn't really know how to deal with pinnacle weapons. So sunsetting was their option. Lock their level out and then sunset them out of the game. The issue is that what I perceived from that was that pinnacles and other weapons like it would become a normal reoccurring thing. And with something as like sunsetting rolling around every year and a half or so, then we would get more strong items on pinnacle level, but we did not. You know, Randy and Shadowkeep, like all those weapons that rolled out, don't get me wrong, they were fun weapons, but they were ritual. And notice they moved away from the name pinnacles to rituals. And now it's gotten to the point where rituals literally mean nothing. You may use a ritual weapon, but rituals are, as Bungie has stated, they're the in-between weapon. They're the weapon that you get to the god roll. You utilize that weapon to then hopscotch to the final weapon that you actually want. They are not the say-all, end-all, as pinnacles were at one time. The other issue I have with really where we are now, and we brought it up in a video a few weeks ago, was that content is being made to be cycled out. Yes, you got your raids, but a lot of this, seasonal content is just being made to cycle out because it will be cycled out. Why invest so much resource and time into those events outside of us just getting the weapons from them? Most of us are not going to go back and play deep dives. You know what I mean? It's being made to just be cycled out. I do believe that deep dives were one of the more creative activities that Bungie has introduced as a seasonal activity. And then, of course, we had things like Menagerie from the past that has been like the benchmark for so long. Let's continue reading this article. So maybe the issue is the gameplay loop. For a few years now, some have complained about the seasonal model and its storyline, claiming that it's not fulfilling enough or doesn't serve up enough to do. Bungie clapped back last season by killing off a core character and providing plenty of context around how, why, and when, as well as linking it to the Lightfall expansion, something it has struggled with before. Amanda? Is she talking about Amanda Holiday? I don't know, man. I wasn't necessarily that blown away by Amanda's death. It then dropped a shocker of a cutscene that explained everything D2 players had questions about surrounding the origins of the Witness and the Veil. And it didn't stop there. Last month, Bungie only went and revealed the resurrection of Savathun, the hive goddess of trickery, and the big bad from the Witch Queen. You know, the one everyone loves. I want to keep reading, but I just have to stop at each one of these. It wasn't the reveal of the origin of the Witness and the Veil wasn't really the problem. It was the fact that it was tied to the season and we didn't get it within the annual expansion. Also, the resurrection of Savathun, as much as I love Savathik, Bungie has stated that Savathik will not play as big of a role. I don't know, maybe I think it's going to be equivalent to Marsov. Marsov hasn't really played this major role. She's kind of a side character at this point. And so I hate bringing back characters. One, it diminishes consequences. Two, when they're brought back and they're kind of a shell of their former selves. That to me is a problem. Now, Savathun's, that one does make sense because Amaru's still around. And that's her ghost. And I like Amaru. So I'm really curious to see how we can create an alliance there. And I think the people that are a little upset about the origins of the Witness, sometimes things remaining ambiguous is sometimes better. You know what I'm coming from? Why is that bad guy bad? Because he's just bad, man. He's just a bad man. And then all of a sudden we find out the Witness and the Witness's backstory. And some people love it. Some people not so much. I'm in between on that. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, the Witness which was essentially another race that the Light, the Traveler, left unread. Like, how many of these stories do we keep having? Traveler shows up, gives you blessing, breaks up with you, tries to leave you. And man, did these alien races take it super personally. The Fallen, the Witness, granted, their situation is a little bit differently because they were trying to do some funky shit with the Veil and the Traveler. But truly, the story of the Traveler is just about this ball of light that goes around blessing people and then breaking up with them afterwards. And everyone just not getting over it. The Traveler's afraid of commitment. So the origins of the Witness and, you know, that entire civilization, it's not as fantastical as I was hoping for. You know what I mean? Until relatively recently, seasonal content felt disjointed and irrelevant to each year's expansion. But with the Witch Queen and Lightfall, there's been a definite shift towards a more involved narrative. And yet, even with these myriad improvements, there's still a portion of the player base that appears to expect more and quicker. A live service game with no sore points, no challenging transitions, phases, and whose developers spin an ever-increasing number of plates while never adapting the monetization to match. Some seem to overlook the wonderful narrative that led us into Lightfall, and they forget the strong, revelatory, nail-biting campaign from the Witch Queen. The fact that Bungie is providing a new raid or dungeon every 3 months and has done so for over a year now still doesn't seem to be enough. The character customization, transmog, weapon crafting, guardian range, seasonal model, Ingram focusing, arsenal tuning, and new modes are all grains of sand in the bottomless bucket that will never fill for some. So, it then poses the question, if we feel that way, why don't they just stop playing? The answer is that deep down, we Destiny 2 fans know these complaints pale in comparison to the good that Bungie does. We know that Destiny 2 is massive as it is because the gunplay is unrivaled. The character building and adventures are deeply engaging. The sheer amount of looting and shooting on offer is astronomical. As we draw closer to the Final Shape release date and the end of the Line Darkness saga, we should know how lucky we've been to see the sprawling epic through. Yet right now, some of us just don't know when to sit back and enjoy it. Right here at this point, which is really what the article should be titled something differently. The article is titled, Destiny 2 isn't the problem its players are. It should actually be titled, why you should accept more monetization in this game. It felt like the article was going to try to paint the picture as something else, but really that's what it revolved around. It's revolving around the microtransaction hell that Destiny is slipped off into. And it's pretty much saying that everything that we're getting right now should result in us having to adapt to the new monetization and I guess further monetization. We've seen Eververse in Destiny for a long time. I have a long ass video on this topic. I have had moments over the years where I've sat back and was like, is Bungie for real right now? You know, I think this season was the one that really pushed me over the edge to make us finally do that video, because you could buy, and it didn't even mention it here. It didn't mention a lot of things here. It actually cherry picked a lot of things. It got some things completely wrong, and then it completely just left out things. Every season has added a little more and a little more and a little more. There's going to be a catch-up mechanic for season passes where you could buy all the season ranks in the final 2 weeks. Okay, the final 3 weeks, the final 4 weeks. Then it was like, okay, now you can actually buy the first 10 levels. You could buy the first 10 levels of a season. And then it was like, all right, now you could just buy the season pass outright. You want to drop $100 right now and just buy the whole season pass and buy everything on the season pass right here, right now, and well out. By all means, go ahead. But let's sweeten the pot a little bit. Let us add this item that is only acquirable on the battle pass that will enable you to obtain a craftable weapon faster. And then we could talk about new content till we're blue in the face. Am I happy Vault of Glass is back in the game? Yes. But is it new? No. King's Fall, not new. Whatever raid we're going to get next season won't be new. And I'm actually being told that it's probably going to be the Leviathan raid, which is even worse because that's a Destiny 2 raid. Please, for the love of God, don't be that. And the reason why we as a player base get upset about this is because we have seen the model year. The model year is still the year of Forsaken. That is still the modeled year. You had Last Wish, you had Crown, multiple PvP maps, a complete redesign to Gambit, which I know no one liked because no one liked Gambit anymore. But Gambit Prime was actually an amazing overhaul. That's the benchmark. That's the year. And you know what's crazy is that year is Bungie. What they would say is they would say, that was the year we messed up. That was the year we messed up and over-delivered. Because our players are going to expect over-delivery. That is such a terrible mindset. I can't believe we actually veered off into this topic, dude. I literally got on today to play some Iron Banner. You guys hit me with this article right here. which is essentially to boycott the event card or Eververse items for Solstice, I'm completely okay with, but I wasn't necessarily like too fired up about it. But when I read an article like this, what the article really boils down to is Destiny 2 players, you should just accept the state of microtransactions and either buy the shit or get the fuck off the game. That's what I'm getting from it. And quit bitching. That's the other thing. Why would Leviathan coming back be a bad thing? Taking a raid out of a game that initially launched with the game to bring it back. I'm trying to like wrap my head around like MMORPGs that do this. I don't understand. Final Fantasy 14. I mean, I went and played that game a year ago and all the same dungeons, all the same raids were still there. From like nearly a decade ago are still there. Like just loading up Dungeon Finder, you can literally go play those. Final Fantasy is around 100 plus gigabytes. What's Destiny 2? Isn't Destiny 2 around 100 gigabytes? Just about every game I download is over 100 gigabytes. The game literally be 500 gigabytes if they didn't sunset. That's why you just need to have just one game on your hard drive. But look, the size of the game, you know, I don't know, man. Like, what are the limitations imposed by platforms? Like the Sony, Steam, or Xbox, do they impose any type of limitations? That's the question I would ask. Is it a money thing? Can you exceed that limitation, but you have to maybe pay more? You know, Call of Duty is 200 gigabytes. Dude, looky there then. If COD is 200 gigabytes, I don't really understand the size debates. I don't understand the size argument for the game. Look, in game development, and it's funny, I'm speaking like as if I'm a game developer, but at least from my observation of a lot of games that I've played, game developers are always trying to find a way to reuse assets every game, you know, which is why you'll play a mission and then you'll play another mission that's like that mission backwards. It's in hope that you won't notice. Destiny has tried it on so many levels, so many times. They're like, here's a mission, here's another mission, which is just that mission backwards. Here's a mission that's a drop-in of that mission. And that's why I applied, especially when we have, you know, certain quests and stuff that are completely separate. But the reason why I bring it up is because this article paints a picture. The game is growing and evolving and doing all this stuff. And this is exactly why we should take the levels of monetization that are being added into the game. My statement to that is, where's the cost? Where's the overwhelming cost? Because if we go to my vault right now, you will see very similar gun models for a lot of things. Yes, reusing certain missions and reusing certain assets, I'm completely okay with. But having it packaged up and give it to us is something new. It's a problem.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.